And this is me, Dr. Smeederman. I'm a gynecologist, board certified gynecologist in Chicago. I'm a sex med and menopause specialist, and I'm here to educate so you could advocate. So I want to talk to you guys about the podcast I just did that you're going to listen to today with the amazing Dawn Hasbrouck. And she is an amazing friend of mine here in Chicago. She was born and raised in Chicago. She has received Emmy nominations for her news anchoring and reporting. She is part of the Fox 32 News show at night, and she has been an anchor there for the last 15 years. So she is a big part of the news stories in Chicago, telling everything that's going on with Fox 32 Chicago. She has had lots of experience in the past with other cities. She was in Boston for WBZ-TV in Boston. She was honored by the Boston Business Journal and named Top 40 Under 40. She also was in Hartford, Connecticut with WFSB-TV. Before that, she was an anchor in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then before that, Savannah, Georgia. She also was in Lexington, Kentucky. So she's been around many of the states and has settled back here in Chicago. She is a Chicago native. She and I know each other because we both went to Duke University. She did get a certificate in film and video production. And while at Duke, she studied cinema television, as well as she was at the Cinema Television School at the University of Southern California for a semester. And she received a master's in science and journalism from Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism. Anyway, she's amazing. She's been doing a lot of broadcasting and bringing media attention to the menopause movement, talking to her friends about perimenopause. And so today we talked about her journey in journalism, how to get media's attention on some breaking news and articles, what it's like in journalism for women, and what women are saying around her circles about perimenopause and menopause. So let's get at it. Here is Dawn Hasbrouck. Hi, everyone. It's me, Dr. Smeederman, Gyno Girl. I'm excited to bring you another episode on my podcast, Gyno Girl Presents Sex, Drugs, and Hormones. Today, I have a very exciting guest for you to listen to her stories that we're going to talk about today. She, as I said, is an amazing journalist and a TV anchor in downtown Chicago with Fox 32 Chicago News, and is going to tell us some great stuff that she has been doing, as well as just talk about some of the experiences that she's had. So please welcome Dawn Hasbrouck. Dawn,
thank you. By the way, I
great.
love the name of your podcast.
Oh, thank you. Love it. I'm so excited that you're here. We actually, we've been friends for a while now, and also we actually went to college together.
Yes.
Even though we didn't know each other in college.
Isn't that funny?
I think you graduated a year after me.
But that's how I found you.
Yeah.
From school connections, which is great. Yeah.
So we're at North Carolina. We went to Duke, which is, an awesome school. We love our
I'm wearing Duke blue, I just realized. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Okay. So I want to hear all about you for once. Like, I want you, because you're always interviewing other people, asking them everything,
including
about
you. Yes.
But I want to hear about you. I want to hear about how you came to journalism and how you came to become a TV anchor. We always hear about all the things that happen, to women as they enter this journalism arena and trying to get into media, and all the undertones of sexism that happen. And you can tell whatever you want, but I just want to hear the scoop about what brought you into journalism and where your passion lies.
It was kind of a roundabout way. I grew up in Chicago watching the news, and I always thought it was cool. And back then it was like Diane Burns, Cheryl Burton, and I thought what they did was great, but I never thought I could do it. I always loved performing and singing and being on stage, but I never thought about television. And then I decided I was going to go to law school like a lot of the women did in my family, and, including my mom. And so that was sort of the track that I took. So even though I was, a singer back in the day, and studied here in Chicago, I had some great teachers. I decided I was going to pursue more of the singing, entertainment law kind of track.
Yeah.
So when I was applying to college, I applied to music programs. And, one of the great programs was at Duke. And I started, with a teacher, a professor at Duke, and was singing and was going to do the go be on Broadway track. And I just decided I didn't like the classical kind of track that I was being put on.
Yeah.
And so, around sophomore year, I decided I would do more of the public policy entertainment law track. So I was a public policy major at Duke, and we had professors in the public policy program who were journalists.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
of them was a longtime columnist with the Washington Post. One of them was a longtime reporter on NBC News.
Yeah.
William Raspberry, Washington Post, John Dancy, NBC News. And they were great professors. They'd fly in to teach the class and fly out. And we had to write, a lot of papers for them and just a lot of great discussions in a small classroom kind of environment. And I just loved it. That piqued my interest. And then Duke had this program. It was Duke in LA, Duke in Paris, or Duke in New York. I chose Duke in LA, left for a semester and studied at the University of Southern California in the cinema television school. And as part of that program, you had to pick an internship, and it could be at an agency, a TV station, or something else. So while I was participating in Duke in LA, I interned at KCAL in LA.
Yeah.
And I would go out with reporters. I was pulling video, oh, we need file video of at the time OJ on the expressway. That was when I was interning. And so I'd I would go up in this big room with all these fat tapes. Everything's digital now.
Yeah.
And I'd pull the video that I was told to get, and I would run it downstairs, and it would appear on the newscast. And I thought that was so cool. It was my file video that I picked.
Yeah.
And I was running scripts into the anchors. So it was just a really cool internship. And I just happened to go out with a reporter one day when he was on a story, and he was like, "Have you ever thought about doing this?" And that's when I was like, huh, I did, but
Yeah.
and he was like, "You should, you could," because he just saw how energetic I was about it, I think.
Yeah. He probably saw the spark in your eye.
Maybe. So I always think about him. He's retired now, but then I came back that summer and interned at WGN here in Chicago. And I told my parents, I think I want to do this. And they were like, "You don't even have a degree in that. You need to go to grad school." So there was a reporter here, Muriel Claire, who's now retired. And I would hang out with her on her stories. And she's like, "This business eats its young. Don't do it." But she was a really strong supporter. And she's like, "You're determined. So I'll write your recommendation for graduate school."
Mm-hmm.
And so she did. She was one of the people that wrote the recommendation. So I enrolled at Medill at Northwestern and got a master's degree. And I during that time was assigned to go to DC and be on Capitol Hill as a reporter. And that's just started the whole thing. So I was reporting in grad school and for a radio station and a TV station, and got a big resume tape together at the end of that and sent it out to 50 stations across the country. And I said, "I'll move anywhere." And I got my first job anchoring the evening news, which was unheard of, Monday through Friday in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that either.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was the first year. And then I did 3 years in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then I did another contract in Hartford, Connecticut for 3 years, then Boston for 3 years. And then I came back here because I always wanted to get back to Chicago.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow.
That was the journey, the beginning.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love
Yeah.
that you had so much support in that as well.
It's
Although,
crazy
it's
though,
so
but I got
funny.
here. Yeah, I got back here 15 years ago.
Oh, okay. So, and you've been with Fox 32 since?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when you said that, the one reporter said that, they eat their young here. That's so common for women to hear in
Everywhere.
some of these professions, right? I hear it in nursing. Obviously, we hear it in
Yes.
medicine. It's something that, I guess we can't ignore the fact that, who's eating the? Is it the other reporters, the other female reporters? Is it the?
Yeah, well, what I have noticed, it's just you have to have a really thick skin to work in television, for one. And then if you're the young person, you're just seen as the young person. You don't know anything, you got to pay your dues and all of that. And so I think that's kind of what the warning was. And yeah, when she said this business eats its young too, what she just meant by that is I think that it's just a really hard time.
Yeah.
Our business, no matter how smart you may be, is really about, paying your dues. And also, I just think being strong and constantly having to tell people, especially as a woman, that you know what you're talking about and that
Right. Right.
because it's in every business and it has to change, but it has
Mhm.
not yet in
I was
many
gonna ask you, do you
regards.
feel like the climate's changed at all?
Um, it's changed in that um, women are getting a lot uh stronger
Mhm.
and not standing for certain things.
Yeah.
And I just told the story to someone recently just about like, having a kid and being on TV is difficult
Oh,
because
yeah.
you're pregnant on TV and then you come back and all of a sudden they think you're brain dead.
Yeah.
You had a kid, you
Yeah.
didn't lose brain cells.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I've seen instances where you're covering all these hard news stories, the breaking news, top of the newscast, and then you have a kid and you come back and they're like, "Oh, we'll give you the fluff." That sometimes happened,
Oh,
back
yeah.
in the day. That does not
Uh-huh.
happen as much anymore at all. Because I think women are standing up for a lot of
Right.
things.
Right. 'Cause all
But
that,
yeah.
media commotion happened with, I was just looking up, I forgot her name, Megyn Kelly, when she went through all that
Mhm.
stuff with,
Yeah.
so how did that sort of interplay with, because you were working at a Fox News work station at the time, right?
Yeah, I don't even remember a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of those things kind of all, there've been so many
Blown up over.
stories
Right.
and yes, exactly. Like for us, it doesn't really impact that what happens
The day to
nationally
day.
does not impact us locally,
Right.
in that regard.
Right.
Fox 32, even though it's an owned and operated station, is very separate from
Yes. Absolutely.
the network. And so, we have our own ideas. We, especially in this newsroom, are a newsroom of a lot of Chicagoans
Yeah.
too. So, there's only so much you can get past us.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice. And I've always felt here, I had my second child here. So I've always felt, supported
That's
and that's been great. And so, my kids have essentially grown up with people here.
yeah.
And so I think as a woman, I feel respected, but I also, know what other women go through, other women in the newsroom. And
Yeah.
um, I'm very aware of what goes on. And so I
Right.
find myself talking a lot to, the women in the newsroom who are younger, just about how to navigate things. And,
Yeah. So
um,
how to be heard too, right? Like it's,
yeah, because Muriel was great at WGN, but those kind of relationships are few and far between. Because as I said, this is a really tough business, and not
mhm.
everybody's always looking out for you. And I think I was just lucky to have someone like her.
Yeah.
And that wasn't always the case in all the newsrooms I've been in, because
Yeah.
everybody's trying to protect their job, as you know, in every
Right.
industry. It's
Right.
not unique,
And I'm sure it's similar to, like, how, like, when people watch Grey's Anatomy and they ask me about, like, "Is that how it really is?" And I
Yeah.
watch the morning show and I'm like, "Is that how journalism really
I
is?"
get asked about the morning show and I get asked about being Mary Jane. I don't know if you ever watched that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Realistic.
it's realistic. I
Yeah.
mean, there's elements of truth there, like,
Yes.
Grey's Anatomy, like, okay, there's not catastrophe happening every 5 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's these inner workings of people, like, having relationships or whatever,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
obviously it's over dramatized,
Yeah. But I think
interesting.
it's important to just cheer on women. I mean, my general manager now is a woman, and I'm like
Mhm.
so excited about that. You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it goes to show, like, obviously we've done some segments because, we all know that menopause is having, that people are saying it's having its moment, but I think it's a real movement among, Gen Xers and millennials who are going through some of the perimenopausal stuff that, it's kind of like we're experiencing this and we're not just going to lay it down and suck it up and take it like
Yes.
generations before. And so I think it
Yes.
speaks volume the facts that you've actually gotten, people to come to your station and talk on these issues that are so relevant for women, especially women in the midlife who are experiencing these dramatic, changes.
Yeah.
Like what inspired you to do that?
You know what it is? I think that women are talking about it more. That, we should start there. Women just have not been comfortable, I think, talking about it, just from what I have determined and
Exactly.
found. And what I've noticed is I just happen to be lucky and have some great close girlfriends.
Hmm.
And so when people start talking about it in our circles,
Right.
then everyone else is like, wait a minute,
Right. It's normalized, right?
that happened too. That
Yeah.
happened to me and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah.
And so I think, and Halle Berry, talking about what happened to her and her experience and being
Right.
misdiagnosed, and it was actually menopause. I
Right.
think those kinds of things help. So when in just your circles, you start talking about it, and kind of swapping stories. And
Yeah.
it's not just the hot flashes and things like that. It's other things that people might think are small or unrelated.
Yeah.
And then when you start talking about it with other women, you say, "Oh, okay, this is happening and it's happening to everyone." And so
Absolutely.
when as a woman in the newsroom, I can bring it up in our meetings. Every day we have a 2 o'clock meeting and say, "Hey, this is something that we really should talk about." And then it helps to have other women in the newsroom who are saying, "Yes, that happened to me. Let's
Yeah.
do it."
Yeah.
And so that's why I've been allowed, I think, to do it, or at least encouraged to,
Oh,
you
that's cool.
know.
Yeah.
And I just think as women, we just have to, as you said, speak up. And it's not just, we have to speak up about everything. And as
Right.
we speak up more, then the things can get covered and
Right.
women can get the help that they need.
Yeah, because that one article was almost 2 years ago now that went viral, like, women are being misled about menopause was the most in New York Times. It was the most downloaded article, I think, that year on New York
Mm,
Times, and I think it speaks volumes to, like, women are misled about menopause, and this is why, and this is what the deficiencies are from, like, a structural
wow.
perspective and also from, like, a patient perspective, right? So
Wow.
I think it's
Yeah.
really important that, this is happening and you're a critical part of the movement here in Chicago, so
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the way to get more media to cover it is to just really, like, bombard maybe the women in the newsroom.
yeah,
There's a new study or there's a
yeah,
conference here, like we knew about, um, and I think the women in the newsroom would wake up and say, "Hey, we need to cover this,"
right,
and but we don't always get sent that information, and so we don't necessarily know what's happening, and I always encourage people, send the press release, let us know
yeah.
so that we can get this stuff covered.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's an important point because I get asked that a lot, like, how do we get the media's attention on this,
you have to
and
tell us.
yeah,
And then oftentimes, there might be breaking news and we can't cover it, but we could
yeah,
at least Zoom or do something and
right,
talk about it,
right,
at the very least. That's
right.
important. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because, like, when you get into your little, like, realm, like, I'm in this menopause sex myth realm, and I think everyone knows this information because 'cause you're around all the people that are talking about it all the time. But
Hmm.
the reality is, like, okay, 1.1 billion women going into menopause by 2030 around the world is a fucking large number,
It
And
is.
it's like, okay, so, there's tons of areas that are just not even being, it's not even being introduced.
And as a woman, I'm still learning about it.
Yeah,
And I've, just learned all the different age groups that you could go through menopause and the things that can start you early in menopause. And you always
yeah,
assume it's an old people problem, and it may
right,
not necessarily be. I've learned that
yeah,
there are constantly things that I'm learning, and I'm a woman. And then
right,
I go into the UPS store to return something, and the woman's apologizing to me because she's sweating and so hot. And she's like, "Oh, the menopause." And I'm like,
yeah,
"Do you know about this, this, and this?" And I end up talking to the woman working in the UPS store for 20
yeah,
minutes just
yeah,
about all of the things that are available that she didn't know about
that's
that
wild.
I learned because
Yeah,
I've been talking about it,
yeah,
with you as when you were on for a segment, and then
yeah.
just anecdotally and just reading about it. It's just amazing.
Yeah, but that's how, like, the word of mouth spreads like that, right? And then eventually people start saying, like, "Oh, this is something I can get treated for," or something,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. And I
but it's
just want to have more of those open sessions. So it's great that you're doing a podcast. I just think women just need to talk about it more. Even
yeah,
if you're not going through it, you might eventually be.
yeah.
And it's just good to be armed with information. Why not?
Yeah, to even understand what hormones do to your body, like, people
Right.
don't have that kinda concept because they're doing their thing all the time, and unless something is dysregulated, you don't even know, like, "Oh, it's the hormones that are really, like,
Yeah.
deprived," or maybe it's because I've been on birth control suppressing my natural hormones, like, whatever the
Hmm.
case may be. Some of these symptoms come up that are very similar, across your life, like, when we talk about the genital urinary syndrome menopause, people experience that when they're lactating, people experience that on birth control,
Yeah.
fertility, all the things, and I think it's just not a midlife woman's problem, like, it's
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And and true to point is that I think, like, how do you feel like the men in your life, like, whether or not it's sons, friends, whatever, like, I think that's a really important thing to think about
It's
because
kind of funny. I've mentioned it to people, including in the newsroom, the men in the newsroom or
yeah,
male friends, and no, none of them, not one, flinches.
yeah,
All of them are like, "Yeah, yeah, I know." And they could be husbands or guy besties or
yeah,
whatever. It's not like they looked at me like I had two heads
right,
and said, "Oh, really?"
Yeah.
That's what happens. All of them knew what women deal with, so it's not like, well, at least the men I know, it's not like they're wondering what menopause is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's well aware because they've experienced it in some capacity, whether it's a sister, a mother, whatever.
Right.
And so I think that helps that
Yeah.
men know. And so when I did the segment on our newscast, that's how I started. I said, men and women
Yeah.
need to talk
Yeah.
about this and learn about this because I
Exactly.
think it helps if they can understand it.
Right.
My
Right.
co-anchor, when I told him we were going to do it, he was like, yeah, my wife is dealing with that. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I think so.
so
It is.
he's
It's
like, I'll
like,
tell her.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
systemic thing. And so, like, I think, like rage, like, actually, it's funny, rage is one of the big things that, like, I always hear from patients. Like, I'm feeling all this rage and anger that I
Mm,
don't know why. And I was
mhm.
talking to someone yesterday, and I was like, you kind of wonder if, like, if the midlife Karens are really just untreated Karens.
Yeah,
Because
that's
that rage,
funny.
in the view of systemic racism that they've dealt with, that they've learned about their whole life and how to be victims,
Yes.
like they're just putting it out there.
Yes. I didn't think about that. That's kind of funny though. Yeah.
But, I think it's interesting in terms of and the different experiences people have.
Yeah.
Do you do you find that, like, that men wanna hear like, do you think that they wanna hear more about it? Like,
I do.
or
And
how they can help
especially,
navigate, with their
yeah, especially the ones who live with a woman daily. I think they do want to learn about it. And I know, just in some of them that I've talked to, that they've learned even from the segments that we've done, they've learned so much about it. And even people that I work with have learned about it and have taken that information and gone to ask their doctors about it or told their wives or their girlfriends to ask their doctors about it and have come back to me at work saying, I got this, this, and this, or I feel so
yeah,
much better.
yeah,
And these women are much older than I am and just
yeah,
never got the help, you know?
yeah,
And so I think that that's great that, that at least in my little circles, I've heard of women who are helping themselves,
yeah,
just based
yeah.
on like information. So that's nice. But I do
Well,
believe the men are relaying that as well.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
really the power of media, right? Do you ever think
Hmm.
about how much power you have, like, in the media? I mean, obviously, now we have social media, which is, like, another, aspect, but, like, when you think about why women stopped being treated for menopausal symptoms in 2002, it was all the media outlets that
It
said,
was.
"Hey, HRT causes cancer, HRT causes
Hmm.
cancer, HRT,"
Hmm.
and without explanations or without, like, these general blanket,
Hmm.
catchphrase statements. And it's really the power of media. Like, how do you like, use that, I guess, to your advantage and stuff? Like, I think that you've already been doing it with.
By having these segments on and,
Yeah.
fortunately, I'm allowed to come up with ideas and execute them because sometimes it's not the case. You come up with ideas and they're kind of pushed off and, but at least here I've been, allowed to do segments that I think are important and
Right.
that helps, and that is powerful. But then on the other hand, you are combating the people who are kind of giving medical information on social media that isn't true. So that's tough too. And I know
Oh,
you
yeah.
probably get frustrated by people who are diagnosing themselves on TikTok or Google. That's tough too.
Sure. Yeah.
And so at least, in our arena, we can have people on who are experts to talk about these things. But
Right.
that's the trade off though. On social media, it's not always the case.
It's not always.
So yeah.
W what do you think about, like, workplace environments? There's a lot of emphasis now, like, I get asked even, like, "How can I make my workplace environment friendly for, perimenopausal, menopau" Is that something that you're seeing too? Like, are people, saying, like, "Should we have, like, cooling agents here? Should we have, like" y
No, I haven't. I have not experienced that. I had my first child, not here at the station. He's 16, but my second one I did have here.
Okay.
And I remember, like, I nursed them both for a year, but with the second one, um, it was a struggle. I was trying to find a place to have some privacy and nurse, and they ended up in pump rather, and they ended up putting me all the way upstairs. We have 2 levels here
Mm.
in somebody's random office where I could like close the door
Yeah.
and they just kind of dedicated that to me. And And then I did a morning show, which was 5 hours long, and you have to pump at some point. So I literally had to make arrangements to get breaks in the newscast so that I could leave the desk to pump, right? Things have changed because I was very pushy after the fact. Because during the time it was tough, I was pushy about how that was needed. And so now we have a wellness room that has a nice recliner and a sink and a fridge for all the women here who have to pump, and then they're used to giving breaks in the newscast, which never was the case, which is nice. But, I don't think people think about those things, in our industry, they weren't. And then also what the viewers say.
Yeah.
I used to get like crazy emails about my appearance. Because, the things that happen when you are pregnant and then after, when you're
Yeah.
nursing, you expand.
Yeah.
And so, people are asking, like, did you get work done? Did you, crazy emails. And those are things that, like, I don't think people realize, happens, at least in a newsroom environment. So I don't think that we are I understand all of the workplace issues that women have, but we don't have that here because I think enough of us have come along, or at least I'm part of that have said, listen, we need these things
Yeah.
in place. So a lot of women, on-air women, have had babies, a couple just in the past 3 years. No, 3 people here. And they all have had the wellness room at least. And, people are aware. I used to pump in the back of a live truck with my first child. Like, the big live trucks you see with the Fox or the CBS on,
Oh
I would
my
have to
God.
pump in the back of those with him,
Oh Lord.
so
Yeah.
I think times have changed, but it's still difficult. I'm not going to lie. It's still difficult for women who've just had a baby to come back
Yeah.
to work and have to be in a live truck all day,
No kidding.
and not have a place to pump,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think that there's so many issues that come up in this perimenopausal period too that women just don't get addressed. There was a study, I think last year, that showed like there's $1.8 billion lost a year because of perimenopausal issues, like people leaving the workforce, the brain fog, like, cognitive distress.
Was this a recent study?
Yeah, it was like in I think it was in March.
Yeah, I saw something recently that was talking about women and work and menopause, but I wasn't able to see what the study was. But I'm
Yeah.
sure it does affect women,
Yes.
especially if you're going through the hot flashes or the brain fog.
Brain fog. Or the
Mhm.
ups and downs emotionally too, like that people have, like it's really,
Mhm.
uh, you know,
Yeah.
really happening. But I think it's
Yeah.
something to consider. Like people have to really consider the workplace environment for women as
Yes.
well.
Mhm. Yeah. But I think it's great that women are talking about it more. That's the start, I think,
Yeah.
to
And
getting
you're hearing
everybody
more
to
about it in
accept
your
it.
circles, you said, like people are talking about it.
Mhm.
What are some of
Yeah.
the things they're saying? Like, are they
Mostly I've heard about, you your podcast is Sex, Drugs, and Hormones. I hear about all of those issues. The hormone discussion, I think people are more open to hormones nowadays, at least in the circles that I've been in and listened in.
Mhm.
And then no one ever talks about the sexual issues, and I'm sure you hear more about that in detail. But when you're just talking to your girlfriends, they still have to be close girlfriends for people to even fess up about that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I think it's good that women are talking about it in those circles. But those are the kinds of things that I hear about mostly,
Yeah.
how it affects that.
And it
Um,
seems like people they're looking for help.
yeah, yeah.
Hopefully finding the right.
Yeah, and that's why I texted you when one of the moms I was talking to, she's much older than me, but she was telling me about all these things and like the shot I asked you about that she got, and I had never heard of that. And so, of course, I always want information.
Yeah.
So I texted you about it to ask
Yeah.
because, I think women hear about the typical things, estrogen, progesterone, all of that, but they don't hear about these shots, the pellets that are kind of, at least new to me,
Mhm.
something new that women are talking about. And I just don't think women are being given all of these options unless
Right.
they ask about it.
Right.
Um, so those
And
are the kinds of things that I hear about, how they're
yeah,
just finding out about these things and asking.
right. And I mean,
Yeah.
some of these things are open because of the lack of, from a medical perspective, like the
Mhm.
lack of therapies that were given in the past, right? Like,
I
so
see.
pellets, for instance, I've talked about before, like it's not our first line because they're not FDA approved and they're not, um, you know, people get super physiologic levels of testosterone that can be dangerous to their
Oh,
overall health and like, cause voice changes and
oh
literally,
gosh.
yeah. Yeah, they actually did a whole thing at the menopause conference on the voice and how it's like an indicator of health in perimenopause. And some of it is related to the fact that there's estrogen and progesterone receptors in the larynx. And so some people notice that there's these changes that happen in their voice, like deeper, the frequency changes. And there is a role of hormone therapy in that. And then the opposite is when people get too much of like, say, testosterone and they start sounding like men because their voices have become.
So your voice changes again. My boys' voices are changing, but it has nothing to do with that. They're just becoming little, adults, but
Exactly.
the women have to deal with that. Okay, great. Later in life.
Yeah, it's kinda like reverse cube.
It's always something. I mean, seriously. But
Mhm.
at least we're talking about it.
At least you're talking
Um,
about it,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's important. So that's good. But how do you think we as media people can better spread the word about perimenopause,
Yeah, I
menopause?
mean, I think everything you're doing is great. I feel like we should, you know, like, getting the right information is really important too, because like you
Mm-hmm.
said, on social media, there's so much, misinformation, and it is an industry now where, like, people think they can make a lot of money off of menopausal women, right? Like, there's a lot of, like, platforms that have opened up, a lot of supplement age groups have, like, now or companies have now opened up. And, when you have this whole, like, dearth of treatments for so many years, so many decades where women
Yeah.
weren't getting treated. It's like, it's a vulnerable population. And so now people are, there's a lot of people monetizing off of it, I guess. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that, there's good ways and bad ways to get through it. And hormonal therapy is part of our toolkit, but it's not, a magic bullet. I mean, I can tell you from my own experience, like I'm still trying to navigate like how to get through perimenopause. And it's not like I don't know the options. It's just,
Yeah.
you have to.
Figuring out the right ones.
Yeah, and it's also like an acceptance, like, "Okay, I'm not gonna be the same as I was, like, 10 years,"
Yeah.
right? Like, I just have to be comfortable with sort of a new ground that I'm gonna start and try to optimize my health with
You know
because.
what I find too, outside of all of that, is part of perimenopause and menopause is the weight gain.
Yeah,
Um, and I look around and I know a lot of women who are going through it and they're just like, I can't lose weight. I can't. And that alone, I wish that we could better educate women about the weight gain and
yeah,
how to stop it.
right,
And it might be the answer might be hormones in that case, but there are also things that you and I have talked about you can do,
right.
like the kimchi and the kombucha and,
Yeah,
things that are good for
fiber,
your gut.
right, gut health and the 30 grams of protein, pushing protein and per meal, trying to get weight training. Weight training is so important for,
Yeah,
with that in terms of, building that muscle mass and that lean muscle mass. But it
but
is, I
it's
mean,
the stomach
it's
fat
the
we all
visceral.
notice,
Yeah,
Like, I wish that we could learn more about that.
yeah, and that's like all mediated by insulin resistance, which estrogen helps to um, control insulin resistance and control visceral fat. When you lose it, that's where the fat accumulates. And so, even though for a lot of women, menopausal hormone therapy might help what they're already doing, like optimizing, but I think the biggest thing is like if you get control over those hot flashes, those night sweats, those vasomotor symptoms, you can then reduce that for those patients. I think that is pretty much like the evidence is clear on that we can improve people's quality of life, but also maybe reduce that if they are experiencing vasomotor symptoms. But it's not always like the magic bullet for everyone trying to lose weight either, Like I think what
Yeah.
is like coming close to what I like these GLP-1 agonists are really amazing if you can get
Now
the
what is
approval.
that?
Those the Ozempics and the semaglutide.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mhm.
Are really like, for patients who, have a BMI over 30 and also, maybe diabetes, pre-diabetes, stuff like metformin might be a benefit. But, pushing protein, watching what you're eating, that Mediterranean diet, I think all of those are really important. Uh, people need to watch alcohol too. Like, I think that's something that, we don't think about, but it's,
Especially later in life.
yeah. And so I think it's something to really consider.
Well, one thing that I noticed, and I try to talk to people about this all the time, just as a woman to other women, and I think I've influenced a lot of the women in my circle, is I've cut out a lot of things.
Yeah.
That just, and I learned that because I had a friend who was like, let's do Whole30 together. And
Yeah.
that was just, watching what you eat and cutting things out. And
Right.
before all of that, I had cut out dairy.
Yeah.
But during Whole30, I cut out sugar. And I feel like it's changed my life.
Yeah.
Yes, I will get dessert at a restaurant. Yes,
Yeah.
I will,
Yeah.
still have something sweet if I want to, but I don't at home.
Yeah.
It's little things like
All
that.
moderation too, right?
It's all moderation, and it's help. Those
Yeah.
kind of things help women,
Yeah.
men
And
too,
sleep,
but
sleep and stress. Like we can't
sleep.
underemphasize the fact that if you're not sleeping that good 7 continuous hours or not reducing your stress levels, like you're not going to get like I had just talking to a patient this week and she is on everything and she's doing everything, but her life is all in chaos because she's in the middle of this, renovations and this and that. And I'm like, until we control some of these factors, nothing I give you is going to really be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
for you. And
That's
no
true.
panacea, but we have to work on everything, right? So it's like a part of a toolkit.
It's little things like that, stopping the chaos, asking for help, which I've
Yeah.
not always been good at doing. I have a girlfriend that I grew up with here in Chicago that I talk to every day, multiple times a day. And, I'll say, oh, I don't have someone to pick up, the youngest child. Like, my helper can't do it today. And she's like, why didn't you ask me? We don't always want to ask for help. We're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, we have too much on our shoulders.
Too much. And then, yes, what you said about sleeping, we just have to do better about rest. And so I've tried to do that. I try to tell my kids too, but dealing with 2 teenage boys, I mean,
they don't want to sleep. They don't want to.
You've seen all those memes where they're putting me to bed. Literally, I go to bed before them. Like
me too. Absolutely.
As a mom, you just have to surrender sometimes.
Yeah. I'm like, no, this is my sleep.
I have to deal with you guys tomorrow, so I'm going to go to bed. You guys stay awake. But I think just in 2024, women are just more open to talking about all those things.
Mm-hmm. And it's great because I think the communication is, that's the first aspect. And I think that's why all these like retreats and all these things that are really popping up have really been successful because women like to be in their groups, commiserating, having that camaraderie. And I think that it's very beneficial for them.
I agree. Yes, it's good. We're making
it's good
progress.
For your brain, right? Like part of cognitive fitness and trying to reduce your risks of dementia is having those social connections.
Yes.
So I always say like, okay, well, don't lose your social connections because at some point, as we age, we don't have any magic bullets for dementia.
Yeah. I'm known as the organizer because I'm always trying to get women together, and, my friend said it yesterday. She was like, you're just such a good, what did she say? You're such a good matchmaker, as in getting all the women together who are from different walks of life.
Yeah.
In all different groups. Yeah. Some moms from school, some childhood friends, and I mix them all sometimes. Like let's just all go eat. Yeah, let's just eat. So that's kind of fun, and I think we should all do that.
Yes,
it takes some work sometimes, but I think it helps to get our brain cells working and talk to people who just don't have the same upbringing that you do or the work experience or whatever, and you can just talk about things that women talk about.
Absolutely,
you don't have to have that kind of stuff in common.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's great.
Let's give you one last piece of advice for women listening or anyone listening. Like in terms of like you're in this situation, how do you find the help you need, or how do you get what you need to? Because my tagline is, "I'm here to educate, so you can advocate."
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you get yourself to the point where you can advocate for yourself? Because I find a lot of patients takes them a long time to get to a point where they're going to be like, "This is about me. I'm going to advocate for myself." Like, this is real self-care. I'm going to take care of my own health, right? Like, how do you?
I think the best thing you can do is talk to someone who you trust, who might be older or might have just been around longer in your industry, or whether it's work or life, and bounce it off of someone. I think it's really important to not, and sometimes I'm guilty of this when it comes to trying to deal with kids and moving parts. But I think as far as my career goes or my health, I always bounce it off of someone.
Yeah.
And then that gives me the courage to stand up for myself. So often before I make a decision, I'm asking someone else. So if it's work related, I'm calling someone else who has done it longer than I have, and I don't say I know it all. I've been doing this 25 years, but I still call.
Yeah.
I call, I called my former co-anchor this morning
Yeah.
because I have to make some decisions and I bounced it off of him.
Yeah.
And, he's like, if I were you, blah, blah, blah. And so it's nice to hear it, even if it's just confirming what you already thought. It helps to bounce things off. That's definitely my number one. And then I think women just have to take the lead and speak up for themselves more. And sometimes if they're new in something and don't feel like they kind of have enough credibility to do that yet, get someone else to do it for you. But do it. Because the only way that you're going to be able to look out for yourself is to speak up for yourself. And if you don't do it, you're harming the next woman that comes after you.
Oh,
You got to do it for yourself and for the people who come after you.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And as women who are already there, make sure you reach back and pull somebody up that's behind you.
Yeah.
That is so important. And we have to continue to do that. And that is literally the only way that women will continue to take over the world.
Yeah. And there's more seats at the table. So
because we are.
Yes.
We run the world.
We're going to rule this world. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast today. Gyno Girl Presents Sex, Drugs, and Hormones. I appreciate all your insight, all your experiences you've had. It's very important for people to hear about.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
You're doing great work.
Oh, thank you so much. Remember, I'm Dr. Smina Rahman, Gyno Girl. I'm here to educate so you can advocate for yourself. So please tune into my next episode next week. If you have a second, please subscribe to this podcast. I'd love for you to be a follower and learn as much as you can about the things that we're going to talk about with all the people on our journey. Please review us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. These reviews really help. Review us, comment, tell me what else you want to hear. To get more information, my practice website is www.cgcchicago.com. My website for Gyno Girl is www.gynogirltv.com. My Instagram is Gyno Girl, so please follow me for some good content. Additionally, I have a YouTube channel, Gyno Girl TV, where I love to talk about all these things on YouTube. And please subscribe to my newsletter, Gyno Girl News, which will be available on my website. I will see you next time.